Today we will be discussing the Residential Energy Efficient Property Credit. You may be able to take this credit if you made energy-saving improvements to your home located in the United States in 2019. Your main home is the home you lived in most of the time, but there are exceptions for certain absences. The basis of your home must be reduced by the credit used. Expenses that qualify are costs to purchase, assemble, and install qualified solar electric property, qualified solar water heating property, qualified small wind energy property, qualified geothermal heat pump property, and qualified fuel cell property. 30% of these costs may be put towards the credit, but for fuel cell property they are further limited by $1,000 for every kilowatt of power generated if that is less than 30% of the cost. Part 1 of Form 5695 is used for the Residential Energy Efficient Property Credit. Part 2 is used for the Non-Business Energy Property Credit. Lines 1 through 6 of Form 5695, Part 1, help you calculate 30% of energy efficient property costs that can be put towards the credit. Lines 7 through 16 help you calculate the amount of credit you can take for qualified fuel cell property. You have to include the address of the property where it was installed. You can include the smaller of 30% of their costs or kilowatt capacity by $1,000. Then you add lines 6, 11, and 12. 12 is carry forward from the previous year. This is a non-refundable credit, so you are limited by your tax liability. Then you will carry the excess forward to the next year. Example 1. Kelly added qualifying energy efficient property to her home that cost $4,000. She also added qualifying fuel cell property that costs $5,000 and generates 2 kilowatts of power. She has credit carry forward of $500 from the previous year, and her tax liability is $2,500. What is her allowed credit and carry forward for the next year? First, you multiply qualifying property of $4,000 by 30% to get $1,200. Then, for qualifying fuel cell property, you use the lesser of $5,000 by 30%, which is $1,500, or $1,000 by 2 kilowatts, which is $2,000. So then you would use $1,500. The next part is the carry forward from the last year of $500, which is included. In conclusion, you use the lesser of $3,200, which is the sum of $1,200, $1,500, and $500, or her tax liability of $2,500. $2,500 would be used for this credit, and $700 would be carried forward. This would be reported on Form 5695, Part 1. You would put the expenses in lines 1 through 4 and total them in line 5. Multiply them by 30% in line 6. You put the qualified fuel cell expenses in line 8, multiply by 30% in line 9, multiply the kilowatt power by 1,000 in line 10, and take the lesser of 9 and 10 in line 11. Put the carry forward from the previous year in line 12, add lines 6, 11, and 12 in line 13. Limit the credit by tax liability in line 14. Smaller of line 13 and 14 goes in line 15, and the amount carried forward, if any, goes in line 16. If 15 is less than 13, subtract 15 from 13, and that would be the amount that you carry forward.